Good evening, everyone. I'm Leah Cooper with your JCN News for this Wednesday, November 11th. Come Thursday, December 10th, Atlantis Paradise Island Resort will reopen its doors to international guests who will be opting in to vacation in place. Throughout the duration of their stay, the resort is reopening with renovated guest rooms in the Royal East Tower, Harborside Resort Villas, and the Reef Residential Style Studios and Suites, which will open on December 17th, as well as reimagined guest experiences and new flight packages. Guests can take advantage of a limited time offer of a complimentary first night free if booked between November 10th through 22nd and valid for stays between December 10th through 17th with a 2-night minimum length of stay. President and Managing Director of Atlantis Paradise Island, Audrey Oswald, says the resort is excited to welcome back its loyal guests, families, and new visitors to experience Atlantis and reconnect with themselves and their loved ones. The resort will reopen in planned phases. Ms. Oswald says their highest priority is and will always be to ensure the health, safety, and well-being of guests, team members, and the community. To help reassure travelers, Atlantis has implemented its Atlantis Clean and Safe Promise, which meets international and local standards for health and safety protocols. According to resort officials, some 3,000 Atlantis workers will return to work in the first phase of the opening. Now, in light of the mega resort's reopening, Bahamas Hotel Catering and Allied Workers Union President Darren Woods says the union's main concern is for guests coming into the resort. He says this much after testing guests at the point of entry has been discontinued, requiring only a negative RT-PCR test and health visa to enter the country.
The back part of that is that the employees are going to be tested on a weekly basis. I guess to protect them too. So we'll see. It is a concern. With one thing, they're coming in with a test that has to be no older than, I think it's 5 days. But we know between you getting the test and you traveling, there's a possibility that something could happen. And so if that were the case, if they would test them at the point of arrival, then you would be able to pick that up. Presently now, you probably wouldn't be able to pick that up for another, I think they.
He says that this means if the guest is infected, the possibility of infecting more people is much greater.
Because, of course, the period they say is about 3 days. So if you get it at day number 1, and you're traveling, let's say at day number 3 or 4, and you get something in between that period, the incubation period has already started. And so by the time you get here, you're at the height of your contagious stage.
Back in July, Mr. Woods says the union had consultations with the resort to speak about protocols and changes that would have to be made in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. That said, he says the union's comfortable with the measures put in place by the resort. The Emergency Powers COVID-19 Pandemic No. 10 Amendment Order has been amended, resulting in the reinstating of a mandatory 14-day quarantine period for those traveling from New Providence to other family islands. Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis issued the Emergency Powers COVID-19 Pandemic No. 11 Amendment Order 2020 last night, repealing and replacing Order 22 of the Principal Order. On November 8th, the mandatory quarantine for those traveling from New Providence to the family islands was relaxed. This latest amendment says a person traveling from New Providence shall be required upon arrival on the other family island to submit to mandatory quarantine at a government facility or any other appropriate facility as determined by the Ministry of Health at his own expense for a period of 14 days or for the duration of their stay for a lesser period. The amendment also requires that those desirous of inter-island travel shall, prior to traveling, apply for and obtain a health visa, and a person traveling inter-island for an emergency must get approval from a health officer or the Royal Bahamas Police Force stating that they have an emergency that requires inter-island travel or is an employee of an operator of an aircraft or a vessel transporting freight and passengers. All inter-island travelers are required to wear a face mask. When the country reopened its international borders on November 1st, the Ministry of Tourism faced some challenges. Director General of Tourism, Joy Jibrilu, says the main challenge arose when it came to technology. On November 1st, all travelers entering the Bahamas had to have a negative RT-PCR test and a health travel visa. Additionally, anyone staying longer than 5 days is required to take a rapid antigen test on the 5th day. Mrs. Jibrilu, who was speaking at the Bahamas Institute of Chartered Accountants Week, said that they made a video presentation to assist travelers with the process and says the feedback they receive is incredibly important for them to move forward. You're watching JCN News. Stay with us.
This segment of the news was brought to you by Alive.